Hello, so I'm going to make a video that's a bit different from the normal videos that I normally make. I was trying to format one of my drives, my computer drives, and I kept running into issues and I didn't see anyone address this online, so I'm going to make this video myself. So I'll tell you the whole problem. I've got two drives, one's an SSD and one's an HDD. SSD is a solid state drive, known for being very quick, and a HDD is quite slow, known for being more like mass storage sort of solution. Now, I wanted to clear the HDD drive, format it completely, and I was hoping to do that, but what ended up happening was my whole operating system got corrupted, and so I had to reinstall Windows and format all the drives there. So I thought I'd talk you through the process of reinstalling Windows, formatting a drive, and building a bootable disk. Building a bootable USB disk. So we'll just jump right in. So the main problem I had was the SSD has my main operating system on it, the one I normally use. The HDD drive is partitioned, so the first half is dedicated to space storage. The second half of that space is dedicated to a second operating system that I could test out malicious code. So the idea being that if any code got released or any viruses, it will stay within that operating system on the HDD drive and I could control it. Now I started to run out of space, so I wanted to clean that whole drive completely, and that's where the issues came in. So I'll just show you what happened. So I have this disk management window up, and you can see the disk I want to clear is disk 0, which has 931 gig of space, and you can see how it's divided into subsections. Now, the best way to format this is to just jump into window and then go into command prompt and run that as administrator, and that will give you all the privileges that you can work with. Then you want to open up a tool called disk part. One word, no spaces, and now we need to list the disks that are actually on our PC. So we do a command called list disk, and you can see these two drives come up. Now the one we wanted to clear is disk 0, so you can kind of see from like doing a little bit of detective work, you can see that disk management shows that you have disk 0, and then you can see there, whilst having my PC window up, you can kind of map out where that data thing is on disk 0, and then you can kind of work out, okay, we need to clear disk 0. So yeah, so we're going to say select disk 0, and just before we continue, I would highly recommend that you do back up all your data, because Windows computers are known for being unforgiving, and there's no guarantee that things might not go wrong. So do back up your data. List the disk again, and then you will see that if the disk has been selected, it will have an asterisk next to it, it's like a little star in the table, and then we're going to type in clean. And if everything runs well, hopefully the thing should clean. If it doesn't, like it does in my case, you can see that it says clean is not allowed because there's a current boot or whatever on it. Then you need to follow the other additional steps in the video to hopefully clear that out, and which may involve you having to reinstall Windows back onto the primary operating system. So just bear that in mind. So okay, so if it doesn't work, hold on. But if it does work, here's the next steps that you have to do. So after doing clean, you need to do create partition primary, and then that will create a primary partition sector in your drive. If you want to know what that means, it essentially whenever you plug in a device into a PC, it has to read the primary partition to work out what the rest of the device does, and that's essentially what the primary section does in your disk. So then what you need to do is do list partition, and then that will show you the partitions that are there. You then need to say select partition 1, because that's the partition there, that's the name of it, partition 1, and then it will say now it's been selected. You can then say list partition again to see whether it's been selected, and again you'll see that little asterisk next to it on the table being formed. You then want to type in, you can type, it's a bit strange here, you can type in active if you want, sometimes it's already predetermined, and then what you would say is format, so format, and then space fs equals ntfs, so that's a window file format. And then you'll run that. You can put the quick section next to it, but I prefer to do the long method because that way it removes any errors on your drive, and if your PC was being problematic, then it's best just to kind of do it the long method. Then you want to type in assign, and what that will do is it will boot the device onto your machine and assign a letter to it. So for example, you can see local disk D in the background of my PC has been assigned. Okay, so let's say, for example, let's say in my case you haven't been able to clear that drive. If you have been able to, congrats, you don't really need to follow the video. You can if you want, it helps me out. But yeah, so we need to open a browser and we need to download a particular tool. So we're going to type in media creation tool for Windows 10. And then we want to click on the top one, download Windows 10 disk image ISO file, and then we're going to download the installation media tool. So what this actually does, what you used to do to download an operating system was you would download the ISO file and then you would figure out your own way of trying to put that onto a USB. But now Windows has been quite helpful and they've created a tool that you can use to just do that for you. So this tool, Window Media Creation Tool, will open up and then we want to say create an installation media for USB or flash drive, DVD or ISO. And then we're gonna untick that box, and then we're gonna choose the operating systems that fit our needs. So for example, 64-bit, Windows 10, and so on and so forth. Now what used to happen was you could drop down the edition and it'll say, do you want to install Windows Pro, Windows Home, or blah 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 blah. But for some reason it's gone. So you just download it as is. Select your architecture and your language and all that sort of stuff. And then what you want to do here is, instead of clicking USB, click ISO file. It'll be much quicker, trust me. You then want to specify a location to save it, and click next, 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 and hopefully it will download onto that location without errors. Okay, so here you can see it's downloading. Now whilst that's downloading, we need to make a bootable USB. So the best way I thought about doing this is to get a spare USB, and we're going to run this disk part commands again, and that will clear out all the data on the existing USB. So just a thing to bear in mind, you're going to need an 8 gig USB, or preferably more than 5 gig. I mean, if you're a bit tight with money, then anything larger than 5 gig will be ideal. Yeah, okay, cool. So let's go on forward. So we're going to list disks, and you can see that the USB is listed on the bottom here, so disk 2. And we're just going to format that, and then we're going to put the operating system or the Windows onto that. So let's just select that disk, and then here's me just kind of validating whether the disk is that disk by size-wise. Select it, we're going to clean it. Once the clean's done, cleared, then we're going to create a partition, primary. We're then going to say format fs equals ntfs, which is a Windows readable format. We're going to let that run, and then we're going to type in assign. My recording failed for some reason here. We're going to type in assign, and that will boot the USB onto our system. Now, when the download for the ISO is completed, we're going to right click on it and then click open with File Explorer or Windows Explorer, whatever you want to use. And then that will give us all the content here. Now what we're going to do is, given the USB is mounted on, we're just going to copy the files from the ISO and copy it into our USB drive. Also, the one thing to bear in mind here is the thing I told you about before, you couldn't choose between Windows and Windows Pro. You need to add a certain file here. So you want to make a new file called ei.cfg. So it's a configuration file. So sort of what I'm doing here. So the best way to make that sort of file is just to create a rich text document, change the file ending to a .cfg format, change the whole file as well, and then open it with text editor. And then you want to copy and paste this stuff. Special thanks to Time Lady for her comment. I'll put this stuff into the description so you can copy and paste it yourself. But this will allow you to access either Windows Home, Windows Education, and Windows Professional. So it lets you choose which operating system you want to install. So cool. Once we have that, we're going to copy that. We're then going to go into the USB, and we're going to go into sources, and we're going to paste that file in there. Like so. Paste. Done. Remember, ei.cfg. Now we need to, on the computer, or at least restart it, and then hold down F12 or keep tapping it until we get a boot menu, which is something like this. So once we have the boot menu up, we will then want to find the boot for the USB. So I know my USB is a SanDisk something something partitioned 1. I just know off the top of my head that that's the right one. So make sure you at least know what your USB name is. Yeah, so Sand Cruiser 8 gig partition 1. So I want to click on that, and then that will boot us into the Windows download Windows window. So we're going to ignore this stuff, just go next, and then we're going to click repair your computer. So I know this is all long-winded, but this is all the steps we have to go through to actually get into the boot menu to actually run CMD. So then you want to click on command prompt. So just to round off what we're doing, we've created an operating system on our USB. We've plugged that USB in and we booted the whole machine onto that USB, so that allows us to edit the disk drives where the SSD may be and where the HDD may be. That's why we're doing this sort of stuff. Now, disk part again. So we want to we're clearing our HDD. So this is our spare drive. So then we're going to say list disk. And bear in mind, I'm typing with one hand while holding a camera, so it's a bit difficult. So we know that we want to clear out disk 0 because we knew that our HDD drive was about 1 terabyte. So I knew that one I wanted to clear out. So I knew it was the top one. I selected the disk 0, and then I listed the disk again to make sure the disk 0 was selected, and then I cleaned it. And then you can see here the clean was successful. I'm then going to say create partition, primary. Select the partition. As you can see, the asterisk is there, but we're just going to do a double check and select it anyways. So select partition 1. That will be that selected. We're then going to say active, and then we're going to do the format fs equals ntfs to convert that to a file, Windows-based file format. Now, you want to restart your machine and to see if Windows can still run, because it might be that in your case, Windows is not completely stupid. Now, if you restart the laptop, you restart your computer or whatever, and it only recognizes your USB as a bootable drive, you're going to have to format the other drive that you had in case you do have 2 drives. So that's just worth bearing in mind. So I'm back again, and now I'm going to format the SSD drive. So same sort of stuff, disk part. And then I'm gonna restart my computer and hit F12 again, and then we're going to boot from the USB again, and then this is when I actually go through the installation steps. So next, install, and then here, if the ei.cfg file works, it should give you this window, and this is where you can choose the Windows Pro or the Windows Home. So yeah, I'm installing Windows Pro here. Next, read terms conditions, yada yada yada, continue on, next. Now I'm going to remove all the other parts for the drive 1. That's mainly because I tried installing Windows and then I came up with the issue, and that's why I figured out the solution with the ei.cfg file. So in your case, this should be fine. Just click on it and then click next. If you need to delete anything, you should know the other 2. And just to double check, you can look at the total file size as well. So yeah, it should be fine. So we click next, Windows installs, does all its stuff, removes it, we just go through all the steps. And then here you can see I'm on my actual Windows after everything's been installed. And then when I press start, my PC, and then if I click on properties, you can see Windows 10 is installed. Okay, so that concludes this, and this has been very long and my voice is gone. I'd like to say thanks for sticking around, and hopefully you subscribe, like the video, and I'll hopefully see you guys around. Bye bye.